Welcome back to the channel, everyone. If you love captivating stories about men transforming into women in unique and fascinating ways, then be sure to subscribe and give this video a thumbs up. Now, let's jump right into today's tale.
Kristin groaned as she slowly woke up. Nashville? Her head pounding like she had downed a bottle of whiskey the night before, which was strange, considering she distinctly remembered having only a single beer at Grand's. The sunlight streaming through the blinds felt unusually harsh, each beam an assault on her closed eyelids. She shifted beneath the blankets, immediately noticing something felt off. Everything felt bigger. The sheets, the pillows, even the bed itself. Her hands seemed lost in a sea of cotton that had fit perfectly fine yesterday. And her body. It felt wrong. Lighter. Knit-eye. Smaller. Like someone had scooped out half her muscle mass while she slept. Did I catch the flu? She mumbled, still half asleep. Her own voice sounded strange, higher, softer, but in her groggy state. She attributed it to morning throat. Her hands instinctively moved, brushing against herself as she stretched. Soft. Her eyes snapped open. Something very soft was pressing against her arms. Two somethings, to be precise, situated exactly where nothing soft should be. She sat up abruptly, the blanket falling away, revealing an undeniably feminine figure beneath. A slim waist that curved inward dramatically. Full, perky breasts that defied gravity despite her upright position. Delicate shoulders that were at least 3 inches narrower than they should have been. What the? Her own sultry, undeniably female voice cut through the silence. The words emerging in a pitch that belonged on a phone sex hotline. Not from her own throat. Kristin's hands shot to her neck, feeling the smooth skin and distinct absence of an Adam's apple. No, 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 no. The words came out in a soft, melodic tone, utterly foreign yet undeniably her own voice. It was like listening to a recording of yourself. Except instead of the usual, "Do I really sound like that?" It was, "Who the hell is that woman speaking with my mouth?" Her breathing quickened as she scrambled out of bed, stumbling slightly as her center of gravity felt completely different. Her legs felt longer, her hips wider, and there was absolutely nothing between them anymore. The boxers she'd worn to bed had transformed into silky boy shorts that hugged curves she shouldn't possess. "This is a dream," she said, her voice still that unfamiliar feminine melody. A very weird, very detailed dream. Too many of Grand's mashed potatoes. Food coma. Hallucinations. Her long, wavy red hair, red, cascaded down her back as she rushed toward the mirror on the wall, the strands tickling her skin in a way that sent unfamiliar shivers down her spine. And that's when she froze. Staring back at her was a gorgeous woman. Pale, flawless skin that looked airbrushed but was apparently real. High cheekbones that models would kill for. Full, pouty lips that were naturally pink without a trace of lipstick. Fiery red hair that tumbled in perfect waves past her shoulders. The color so vibrant it seemed impossible to have come from a bottle. Bright, piercing green eyes, framed by long lashes that fluttered with each blink. "Holy shit," she whispered, watching those perfect lips form the words. "I'm hot." She looked like a model. No, more than that. There was something familiar about her features. A resemblance that tickled the back of her mind. Like seeing a celebrity whose name you can't quite recall. And then it hit her. She looked like her grandmother when she was young, the woman in the faded photographs on Grand's mantle. The stunning redhead who had turned heads in her day. "Oh my God, I look like young Gran," she mumbled, unconsciously running her hands through her hair. The gesture felt natural, despite never having had hair long enough to run fingers through before. This is her doing. It has to be. Kristin's breath hitched as she leaned closer to the mirror, touching her face, her petite, delicate nose, the subtle arch of her brows, the softness of her skin. It was all real. No prosthetics, no elaborate makeup. She pinched her cheek, wincing at the sharp pain. "This isn't happening," she whispered. "This can't be happening." She glanced down at her body again, at the curves and valleys that had replaced her formerly flat plains. "I've turned into a woman. A smoking hot woman. But still, a woman." She turned, eyes darting around the room. And her apartment had changed. What had once been a testament to bachelor life was now tasteful. Her old messy man cave was gone. No more beer cans on the coffee table. No more football posters on the walls. No more takeout containers serving as impromptu science experiments in forgotten corners. Instead, the place was clean, stylish, and distinctly feminine. Soft pastel tones, decorative plants that were somehow still alive. A vanity in the corner with a ridiculous amount of makeup that looked like it belonged in a Sephora showroom. "I don't even know how to use half this stuff," she muttered, eyeing the collection of tubes, brushes, and palettes with suspicion. The bookshelf that once held video games and sports memorabilia, now stocked with romance novels, fashion magazines, and an alarming amount of candles. Though she noted with some relief, her fantasy football trophies were still there, albeit fewer than she remembered owning. Did I get worse at fantasy football as a woman? She wondered aloud, then shook her head. Focus, Kyle. Kristin. Whatever. This is insane. Kristin's stomach twisted as she moved through the apartment, each step reinforcing that this was her life now. The kitchen was spotless, with actual matching dishware instead of the hodgepodge collection she'd accumulated through college and beyond. The refrigerator contained fresh vegetables and fruits instead of beer and questionable leftovers. There was a yoga mat rolled up in the corner where her gaming chair used to be. And then, like an unstoppable flood, the memories hit. She clutched her head as two lives collided in her mind. She was Kristin Thompson, born and raised as a girl, went to school, had friends, dated boys, and one experimental semester with a girl named Amber in college, went through awkward teenage years with braces and acne, blossomed in her 20s, got a degree in marketing, landed a job at the same firm where Kyle had worked. She was Kyle Thompson, a guy who had been obsessed with football, drank beer with his friends, dated a string of women who inevitably grew tired of competing with ESPN for his attention, and had a completely different life. The two sets of memories warred inside her skull, a dizzying rush of emotions, sensations, and experiences. "Oh God, I remember kissing Brad Whitaker at senior prom," she groaned. "And I remember laughing at Brad Whitaker when he struck out with Melissa Jenkins at that same prom." The conflicting memories made her dizzy. This is too weird. Way too weird. And then, it stopped. The buzzing in her head faded, and everything settled into place. Kristin staggered back, breathing heavily, clutching the edge of the kitchen counter for support. She still remembered everything about being Kyle, but at the same time, she had lived an entire lifetime as Kristin. It was like both identities had always been there, coexisting in an impossible paradox. This is some Twilight Zone level weirdness, she muttered, pushing her hair. God, there was so much of it. Back from her face? Or did I just watch too many body swap movies as a kid? And then, amidst the chaos in her mind, A specific memory surfaced. A little girl, her, now, sitting on her grandmother's lap as the old woman stroked her red hair and whispered, "Kristin, dear, there's something you should know. Our family has a little magic in it. And one day, you might see it for yourself." Young Kristin had giggled, thinking it was just another of Gran's silly stories. Present day, Kristin's eyes widened. Grandtai. If there was anyone who could explain this, it was her grandmother, the same woman who had listened to her wish for anything to help her fantasy football team just the night before. The same woman who had that mischievous glint in her eye when Kyle had joked about needing a woman's intuition. That crafty old witch, Kristin muttered, though there was a reluctant admiration in her tone. She actually did it. She actually turned me into a woman. Determined, she moved toward her closet to get dressed, only to be confronted with another startling reality. The first issue? Her underwear drawer. Kristin opened it and immediately gawked. Lace. Lace. More lace. Satin. Silk. Dyed. Something with actual feathers attached. Every single piece was delicate. Barely their lingerie, G-strings, thongs, lacy bras in every color of the rainbow. Nothing even remotely comfortable looking. While there wasn't a single pair of boxers or briefs to be found. Jesus, do I own anything that isn't designed to be sexy? She muttered, sifting through the drawer. Was I moonlighting as a Victoria's Secret model in this timeline? Her fingers brushed against something in the back of the drawer, and she pulled out a small black book. Flipping it open, she found a list of names, men's names, with star ratings beside them. "Oh my God," she whispered, horrified and fascinated. "I kept score? Who am I in this universe?" She hastily shoved the book back into the drawer, deciding that was a rabbit hole for another day, preferably after several strong drinks. Reluctantly, she grabbed a white lace bra and matching G-string, cringing as she slipped them on. The G-string felt incredibly foreign. The thin fabric, barely covering anything. A constant presence between her cheeks that she couldn't ignore. The bra at least fit comfortably, though it did push up her already impressive chest more than she liked. How do women wear these torture devices every day? She grumbled, adjusting the bra straps. Though I guess it beats having the girls just bouncing around. Next problem? Shoes. Kristin opened her shoe rack and groaned. Heels. All heels. The lowest pair was 3 inches. The highest, probably 6 inches. And designed for breaking ankles. They looked more like weapons than footwear. Was I allergic to sneakers in this life? She grumbled, pushing aside pair after pair of stilettos, pumps and strappy sandals that seemed to require an engineering degree to put on properly. Did I never want to walk comfortably again? Finally, at the back of the closet, she discovered a single pair of white Converse, though even these had platform soles. Better than nothing. She sighed, pulling them out, pushing her frustration aside. She grabbed a pair of white high-heeled boots. At least they looked sturdy, and started getting dressed. She threw on a simple tank top, a hoodie, and a pair of jeans, needing something comfortable amidst the insanity. The jeans hugged her new curves like they were painted on, and the tank top did little to downplay her chest. "Great," she muttered, looking in the mirror. Even dressed down, I look like I'm trying to get attention. She attempted to pull her hair back into a ponytail, but having never managed long hair before, she ended up with a lopsided mess that kept falling out. After 3 attempts, she gave up, letting the red waves cascade freely. Mental note: YouTube hair tutorials later. She groaned. Finally dressed, though still feeling completely alien in her own skin. Kristin took a deep breath. Okay, Thompson, she said to her reflection. One step at a time. You're still you. Just packaged differently. Very differently. She grabbed her phone from the nightstand. Noticing it was now a rose gold model with a glittery case, a far cry from the utilitarian black model she'd owned as Kyle. The lock screen was a selfie of her with a group of women she recognized as friends? Colleagues? Both sets of memories suggested they were co-workers from the marketing firm. But the relationships were clearly different now. A notification banner showed several text messages had come in overnight. Mike, still on for brunch Sunday. Jake keeps asking if you're coming. Devin, check the standings. Your team actually moved up somehow. Did you sacrifice a small animal to the fantasy gods? Mom, call me when you get a chance. Your father says hi. Kristin felt a wave of relief. Some things were still the same. Her friends still existed. Her parents were still around. Fantasy football was still happening. But there were subtle changes. Mike apparently had a friend named Jake who was interested in her. And her relationship with her parents seemed warmer, based on the casual nature of the text. One step at a time. First, Grandma. But she grabbed her purse. Because, apparently, she carried one now. A sleek leather bag that probably cost more than Kyle had ever spent on an accessory, and headed for the door. Keys, phone, wallet, she murmured, the routine feeling both familiar and strange. The wallet inside, the purse was filled with cards that bore the name Kristin M. Thompson and a driver's license with her new face staring back at her. Before leaving, she caught her reflection one more time in the hallway mirror. Well, Kristin, she said to herself, at least Gran made me hot. She straightened her shoulders, which felt strange without their usual breadth, and headed out, locking the door behind her. If anyone had answers, it was the mischievous old woman who had probably done this to her in the first place. Kristin took a deep breath as she stepped outside, the cool morning air hitting her face with an intensity that made her skin tingle. It was strange, her senses felt sharper, like the world was just a little brighter, clearer, more intense than it had been before. Colors seemed more vibrant, scents more distinct. She could smell her neighbor's coffee brewing 3 doors down, catch the subtle notes of someone's laundry detergent hanging in the air. Is this how women experience the world all the time? She wondered, inhaling deeply. Or is this some weird side effect of magical gender swapping? She shook that thought off. Focus. One crisis at a time. The first real challenge of the day? Driving. Kristin approached her car. Well, what used to be Kyle's car? The old, slightly beat up sedan with its dented fender and "My other ride is your mom" bumper sticker. A gag gift from Mike that Kyle had never bothered to remove was gone. In its place sat a sleek, white BMW coupe, all gleaming curves and polished chrome, looking like it had rolled straight off the showroom floor. She paused, staring at the vehicle as if it might transform back into her familiar junker if she concentrated hard enough, running a delicate finger along its pristine surface. Apparently, Lady Me has better taste in cars. And more money. She peeked inside at the tan leather interior. Way more money. The keys in her hand looked different. Too slimmer, fancier. With a weighted BMW fob that probably cost more than Kyle's entire key ring collection. When she clicked the button, the BMW chirped, its lights flashing in a friendly greeting. At least my grandmother's magic comes with upgrades, she muttered, though a part of her missed the familiar comfort of her old beater. That car had history, road trips with friends, Fast food stains on the passenger seat. The broken AC that only worked if you hit the dashboard in exactly the right spot. Sighing, she pulled open the door and slid inside, immediately enveloped by the scent of new leather and some kind of vanilla air freshener. The seat was contoured differently than she was used to, hugging her new curves in a way her old bench seat never had. The second she settled into the driver's seat, a new problem arose. Her heels. Kristin glanced down at her feet. The white, high-heeled boots resting awkwardly on the pedals. A minimum 3-inch heel was definitely not something she had ever driven in before. Kyle had always worn sneakers or work shoes. Flat, practical footwear designed for, not killing yourself while operating heavy machinery. This is a recipe for disaster, she muttered, eyeing her footwear with suspicion. How do women drive in these stilts without impaling themselves on the pedals? Or so she thought. She hesitated for a moment, worried she'd mess up and send the BMW crashing through the front of Mrs. Patterson's ground floor apartment. But as soon as she reached for the pedals, muscle memory took over. Her foot moved smoothly, the ball of her foot pressing the brake as she started the car. Heel elevated naturally above the floor mat. Shifting into gear felt natural, her new slender fingers wrapping around the gear shift with practiced ease. When she pulled out of the parking lot, she effortlessly worked the pedals like she had been driving in heels her entire life, which, according to one set of memories, she had. That realization made her grip the wheel tighter, knuckles going white against the leather. Great, she muttered, merging into traffic with the easy confidence of someone who had been handling this car for years. Just great. I've got the muscle memory of a woman now. What else is baked into this body? Do I automatically know how to apply liquid eyeliner? Will I suddenly start craving chocolate during specific times of the month? Can I now magically find items in a grocery store without wandering up and down every aisle 3 times? As she drove, her mind raced, trying to piece together what had happened. The car handled like a dream, responsive and powerful under her touch. But she barely noticed the smooth acceleration as the gears of her brain churned through the events of the previous evening. The only thing she could remember that might have triggered this insanity was her comment to Grandma last night. I'd trade anything to win this year. Had she been serious? No. Of course not. She was venting, like anyone would after a rough game. It was hyperbole, exaggeration, the kind of thing people say all the time without meaning it literally. I didn't actually mean my manhood, she grumbled, checking her mirrors with an automatic flick of her eyes. That wasn't part of the bargain. But her grandmother. Kristin's jaw clenched as she thought about the twinkle in her grandmother's eye. The way she had smirked when she repeated anything, like she was already plotting, already seeing the potential for mischief. That knowing look that, in retrospect, should have set off every alarm bell in Kyle's head. She's been planning this for years. Kristin realized, memories of her grandmother's little hints about magic throughout her childhood suddenly taking on new significance. This wasn't just a spur of the moment spell. This was premeditated gender swapping. Was this her doing? And if so, could she fix it? Kristin hoped so, because the longer she stayed in this body, the more terrifying the implications became. Already, she could feel little instincts and reactions that weren't her own. Or, rather, weren't Kyle's, bubbling to the surface. The way she had automatically checked her hair in the rearview mirror when she got in the car. The slight adjustment of her posture to accommodate her new center of gravity. The unconscious crossing of her legs when she stopped at a traffic light. As she pulled up to a red light at a busy intersection, a man crossed the street in front of her car, jogging slightly to beat the changing signal. And Kristin's body reacted. He was tall, broad-shouldered, with dark hair and a jawline sharp enough to cut glass. Dressed in workout clothes, a fitted Under Armour shirt and running shorts that showed off muscular thighs. He had that effortlessly rugged, athletic look, the kind of guy who, as Kyle, she would have acknowledged as competition at the gym. Maybe even nodded to, in that universal bro greeting that conveyed both respect and territorial awareness. But as Kristin? Her stomach fluttered. Actually fluttered, like some kind of ridiculous butterfly had taken up residence in her abdomen, and was practicing for the Insect Olympics. Her gaze lingered on the way his shirt clung to his muscles, outlined his broad chest and narrow waist. She noticed the definition in his arms, the confident stride of his gait. Her breath caught slightly as she felt a strange, warm sensation spreading through her, starting low in her belly and radiating outward. Her thighs squeezed together involuntarily, a movement so automatic she didn't even register it until she felt the pressure. Kristin's eyes widened in horror. "Oh, hell no," she blurted, gripping the wheel like it was the only thing anchoring her to reality. The leather creaked under her fingers. Had she just? Was that? What? The hell? One. She clenched her teeth and forced herself to look away, heat burning in her cheeks, spreading down her neck. She adjusted the air conditioning vent, blasting cool air onto her suddenly flushed skin. That was not normal. That was not okay. That was not how she was supposed to feel. Nope. Not happening. She shook her head violently, fiery hair whipping around her face, as if that would dislodge the thoughts trying to worm their way into her brain. I did not just check out a dude. That was an aesthetic appreciation, like looking at art, or a car, or a really well designed building. Yeah. But even as she tried to rationalize it, she knew that wasn't aesthetic appreciation. That was attraction. Raw, biological, undeniable attraction. And it terrified her. She was still Kyle. She liked women. She had spent 9 years admiring the female form, dating women, being attracted to women. Her sexuality was one of the most fundamental aspects of her identity. Didn't she? The man had reached the other side of the street now, and Kristin caught herself watching him in her peripheral vision as he continued his jog, her eyes drawn to the movement like a magnet. "Stop it," she hissed at herself. Eyes on the road, Thompson. Not on Mr. Fitness Model's sass. Oh my God, I'm doing it again. The light turned green, and Kristin slammed the gas a little harder than necessary, her tires squealing as she sped off, very deliberately, not looking at the attractive man in her rear-view mirror. The BMW lurched forward with impressive acceleration, pushing her back into her seat. A car honked as she merged perhaps a bit too aggressively into the next lane. Yeah, sorry," she called out the window, though she was more irritated with herself than apologetic to the other driver. "Grandma better have a damn explanation for this," she muttered, through gritted teeth, knuckles white against the steering wheel. "Because if I'm stuck like this, and my body keeps pulling crap like that, I'm gonna lose my freaking mind." She adjusted her mirror, catching a glimpse of her own face, still startlingly beautiful, still unnervingly unfamiliar. Is this what women deal with all the time? She wondered, a new thought occurring to her. Being attracted to people they don't want to be attracted to? Having their bodies just react without permission? The irony wasn't lost on her. How many times had Kyle joked about thinking with the wrong head, or blamed his hormones for poor decisions. Now the shoe was on the other foot. The very high, heeled other foot, and it wasn't funny anymore. This has to be temporary, she insisted to her reflection. A lesson. A joke. Something Gran cooked up to teach me. I don't know. Empathy or something. But, even as she said it, a nagging doubt crept in. Her grandmother's magic had seemed pretty thorough. This wasn't just a physical transformation. It was a complete rewriting of reality. Her apartment, her car, her clothes, even her memories. Everything had been altered to accommodate Kristin's existence. No, she said firmly, shaking her head again. There has to be a way to reverse this. There has to be. She pressed the accelerator a little harder. The BMW responding eagerly as she headed toward her grandmother's house. Determination settling into her bones alongside the growing fear. One way or another, she was getting answers today.